G'day everybody, Daniel here from GI Energy. Today I want to talk to you about commercial solar. In particular, I want to try and debunk a few of the most popular myths that we come across, or address some of the most popular questions that we come across around commercial solar installations. The first one is that commercial solar is just too expensive. So we hear this a lot from clients who have had quotes in the past, potentially a long time ago, and that have just seen the value of that quotation and dismissed it based on the fact that they feel like they need to come up with a lot of money to get solar panels installed. So first things first, if you have had a quote and it was a while ago, solar panels have become a lot more cost effective over the last 5 or so years. But in addition to that, really understanding the value of that commercial solar install, I think, is what's been missing from a lot of our customers that we have spoken to and then ended up installing for after they've understood that a little bit better. So commercial solar panels don't have to be expensive for your business. There are many different ways that you can actually install solar for your business without any capital up front. You can install a solar system on a lease or a chattel mortgage, for example, which is a really easy way of doing it. And oftentimes you can positively gear that investment, which means that the money that the solar panels will save you is greater than the debt against the system. So if you're saving $10,000 in that particular period, then the cost of the chattel mortgage or the lease may only be $6,000 or $7,000. That's obviously just very round numbers, so don't read too much into that. Just an example of how you can positively gear that investment through a very simple finance package. And then obviously at the end of that term, you would then own the system. So what you're basically doing under that scenario is you're having a solar system installed without having to find the capital to do it. You're taking money that you would usually give to your retailer for buying energy from the grid. You're redirecting that across into your chattel mortgage, and you're keeping the difference. A lot of people then focus on the difference. So under that example I gave you before of saving $10,000 and spending $6,000 or $7,000, there's a $3,000 or $4,000 difference. So some people would think, okay, that's fine, but it's not that much money. Is it really worth the risk? My answer to that would be, don't base it on that alone, because that is only, the difference there is only part of the value. The real value is that you're getting something for your money. So when you're giving your money to your energy retailer every month or every quarter, you're basically buying that energy, and that's all you're getting from it. When you're doing it under a lease or a chattel mortgage scenario with a solar system, you're spending less money, but you're getting something for it. So at the end of that 3, 5, 6, 7, 10-year term, however you decide to structure it, you own that asset for your business. Then all of a sudden, you're not just saving the gap, you're saving the full amount, and you're saving more each year as the rate per kilowatt hour of energy goes up and up and up. So ultimately what you're doing is taking money that you're currently giving to your energy retailer, you're redirecting it back into your business to buy something valuable for your business. So instead of dead money over here, it's actually going to be very usable money going towards purchasing an asset which sits on your balance sheet as an asset for your business for the long term. Separate to those straightforward finance options that you're probably familiar with, there is also something called a power purchase agreement, or a PPA, which means that it de-risks it even further. So we can come and install solar panels for you under a PPA, or a power purchase agreement. The system is installed with no money up front, and ultimately you just buy energy from the solar panels. So if you're spending 12 cents a kilowatt hour on your energy from the grid, for example, you might end up paying 10 cents per kilowatt hour from your energy from your solar panels. If there's any maintenance needed across the period of that PPA, that's all included. If the solar panels for some reason aren't working, you're not paying anything because you're only paying for energy. So this is a really risk-free way of installing solar energy for your business without any capital up front and without any ongoing risk. The same thing applies with the PPA, in that at the end of that term, you own the asset. So ultimately it's another type of finance package that de-risks a solar investment for your business. It means you can get cheaper power, you can get green power, you can get it now, and you can pay off an asset for the business purely just by buying solar energy from the panels that sit on your roof for a lower rate per kilowatt hour than what you're spending on grid power. That's the most popular myth, is that solar is just too expensive. It's simply not the case, and a lot of the time we can positively gear those investments. So that's number one. That's the one that we get asked a lot. And usually once we talk people through these different options of getting solar installed, they then sort of understand and realize there's not a huge amount of capital required. The second one is that solar panels will only work when it's a really sunny day. and when it's not a really sunny day, you're not going to get any value from it. So there is some truth in that, in the sense that solar panels will work better when there's no clouds in the sky. Obviously direct sunlight is creating more UV, which then ultimately produces more energy. That being said, modern solar panels now are a lot more efficient in cloudy weather, and also here in Australia, we're so lucky with the sunshine hours that we do get. The investment in Australia is better than anywhere else in the world that I'm aware of. There's lots of solar panels being installed globally, and in Australia we get a better return on our money than anywhere that I know of, despite getting some cloudy days. So that's definitely not a reason not to pursue solar energy for your business. The third one is the maintenance. So people worry that if they install solar panels, they're going to need to continually be maintaining them. There is some truth in this if it's not done correctly. So we do come across a lot of solar installs that have been installed poorly, and the company that has installed them is no longer around. So you do have to be very careful with who installs your solar system and make sure that you do a lot of due diligence. That being said, if it's installed correctly, a solar panel doesn't need to have a huge amount of day-to-day maintenance. You would have an operation and maintenance schedule in place if it was a large commercial solar array, potentially with the people that installed it for you, or you could use somebody else to put that in place. So people will come round at an agreed period of time, clean your solar panels, test all the electrical, make sure that nothing's decaying sooner than it should, check the inverters, make sure the system's producing properly, tug tests on the rails on the roof, things like that, just to give the system a real good overview, usually once a year. At an agreed price, and you can build that into different types of packages. We were talking about PPA before. That type of stuff is typically included in the PPA rate, so you don't pay for that under those circumstances. If you did buy a solar system differently, then you would obviously pay for that operation and maintenance, but you just include that in your decision. So include that cost into your investment decision, and if you're still happy with the return, then you proceed. But maintenance with a solar system is not a significant issue if it's installed correctly the first time, and if it's installed by someone who really knows what they're doing and is using really good equipment. Your warranties on a solar panel are 25 to 30 years. Your inverters are 10 years, and they can easily be extended up to 15 or even 20 years. Your return on investment period is typically a lot shorter than those warranty periods. So if something happens to a major component of your solar system, during your return on investment period before you've got your money back, it's normally always covered by warranties anyway, as long as it's a reputable company supplying and installing for you. So the maintenance is one that we hear a lot. People are worried about their roof, so will solar panels damage my roof is another one. And once again, I'd love to say that I've never seen a solar system that has damaged a roof. Unfortunately, that's not true. Particularly again, if you're using an installer that's maybe not as reputable or experienced, that can happen. Every roof type is different, so some roof materials are more susceptible to damage and to leaks and to other types of interference, others not so much. So you really have to assess your roof type properly to do that risk calculation. That being said, once again, if your roof's in good condition before the solar panels go on, and you use a reputable, experienced installer who knows what they're doing, has lots of runs on the board, has clients that you can speak to, and has a good warranty in place for that type of thing, it shouldn't put you off. There should be a long period of cover there after your solar install, so that if your roof is damaged in any way, it's covered by the warranty, by the install warranty. So if you're seriously considering putting solar on your roof and you have concerns about that, my advice would be read the warranty document, speak to some other clients, find out what happens if something does go wrong with the roof. It is unlikely though, if it's installed correctly, that anything would be damaged that wouldn't be covered very comfortably within that warranty. Some people are worried that it's not going to save them enough money in their business, and as we talked about before, in Australia here, you've got the best return on investment basically anywhere in the world. How much money you save though will be very different from one business to another. So depending on how you're being charged and depending on how you use energy, the return on investment period for a commercial solar system can be drastically different. What you really need to do to understand that is get somebody who can grab your load profile from your network, get the interval data, which is half an hour increments of how you're using energy over a 12-month period, use their own software to simulate your solar energy savings, and then you'll be able to see exactly how much you can save. If somebody's not doing that, if they're not getting the load profile initially and building that up, then I would suggest that they probably are not experienced enough to handle a commercial solar install. You should be really starting there and building up a load profile before you make any suggestions as to what should be installed and to how much money can be saved. Another newer myth that we're coming across a lot more now as battery storage becomes more popular is that battery storage is just not worthwhile. It's not feasible. It wasn't that long ago that I would have agreed with that for a business. It was quite cost prohibitive, but things have changed, and there's lots of scenarios now where you can get a really quick return on investment with a battery system for your business. It will depend on your load profile again. So if you're using power differently to somebody else, you'd have to figure that out first and engage in a company that can create that load profile and make some suggestions. It doesn't work for everybody, but there's lots of scenarios where a solar and battery on a large scale for a business will work really well. I'll give you an example of one that we're working on right now. The client is using about $130,000 of electricity over a 12-month period, and this is with a 100 kilowatt system already installed. So we are doing the feasibility, and we will be presenting and installing a battery system that is two 225 kilowatt hour battery banks with some additional PV on the roof, so more panels on the roof. I think it was 300 kilowatts of extra solar panels on the roof. And that's going to get that customer well below the threshold for a large business customer, which means they get rid of a lot of those expensive fees on their bill and reduces their bill down to about $30,000 a year. So they'll be saving about 100 grand a year, and the return on investment for that client is about 6 years. So that's with a significant battery bank, a significant solar upgrade. So they're obviously now generating, storing and using a lot more green energy within the business, and they're getting a very good payback. And I think that was based on only a 3% per annum increase in electricity costs, so realistically they could get their money back a lot quicker. You can also do other things with batteries now in terms of trading energy. You can charge your batteries when it's very cheap and sell that energy back to the grid when it's very expensive, and you can then automate that process with technology so that it's not anything manual happening there, and you can generate revenue for the business and get even quicker paybacks by essentially trading energy, buying and selling energy through your battery system. So the days of energy storage for businesses not being viable really are now in the rearview mirror, and it won't work that way for everybody, so you'll need to get your load profile assessed correctly, but certainly a very viable option for a lot of businesses these days. The last one I wanted to talk to you about that we come across a lot is people don't install because they're worried that there's too many cowboys in the industry. They've heard a horror story about how somebody else has been installed incorrectly, or their solar system hasn't lived up to its expectations for some reason. Unfortunately, this one is more true than the others. This does happen a lot. It's a very transient industry. I've been doing this for a very long time, both with GI Energy and prior. I've got many years of experience, and unfortunately I have seen many companies come and go, and a lot of customers there have been left in the lurch with warranties and systems that don't work. So this is one that is you have to be very careful with. My advice there would be do your due diligence, take your time to look into the company, find out who they are, who else have they installed, how long have they been trading for, do they have the relevant insurances and licenses, and just find someone that you're really comfortable with, that you can trust, that you think is going to do a good job for you, and then make sure, as I say, that you back that up by doing that pragmatic due diligence and making sure that they are actually doing the right thing, and they have been for a long time. If you'd like to get in touch with us, we'd love to help. I'm happy to answer any of your questions and do a feasibility study for you and find out if commercial solar and battery is going to work for you. So if you'd like to know more, please feel free to get in touch. We'd love to talk to you. Thanks.